Hello, commercial streams coming up on YouTube and Twitch and Ustream and Twitter. Nice to have you on board with us. If you'd like to get in our chat room, coder.show/matrix, where you can help us title it. In fact, I need to get the title bot kicked off, don't I? I'll do that. Maybe you can get in there before I get that done, coder.show/matrix. We've been talking about AI on the pre-show a little bit because it's going to be one of the topics in Coder today, and we like to kind of add a little context when we start up over at Jupiter.tube. And an analyst, and I'll play the clip for you so you can make up your own mind. Maybe we'll chat about this. They say that and I tend to agree, actually, is cognitive jobs are where AI is going to actually maybe take away jobs from humans. Not so much the manual labor jobs or the creative so much, but the cognitive, like the idea jobs, maybe like moving data around type stuff.
LinkedIn announcing that it cut almost 700 jobs, mostly from engineering roles, raising concerns that AI automation could threaten more jobs performed by humans. Joining us to discuss this and how to position yourself best against AI is Alan Garino. He's a Korn Ferry vice chairman. This is real, and it's happening, and it's especially happening in the engineering world. Coders may very well be the first, I hate to say it, on the firing line here, Alan.
Andrew, when you think about AI, and it's a hot topic in the world of work.
I hate it when people say, and politicians do this all the time, so it's a red flag. When you think about, and then insert topic name, when you think about going to the grocery store and buying groceries, you think about the pricing. When you think about it, it's completely unnecessary. It's a non sequitur. You don't need it in there.
When you think about AI, and it's a hot topic in the world of work. When we think back to the Industrial Revolution, we've seen a lot of disruption in terms of how work gets done. And then we had the Internet revolution. Now we have the AI revolution. So, yes, this is going to challenge jobs where cognitive tasks are valued. Previously, often innovation challenged jobs where manual tasks were performed. So, yes, definitely engineers and various others will have to see this as a potential threat for displacement, or ideally a tool that will let them do higher order work better.
Right.
All right. So I'd like to know your take in the chat room before we go on. As AI evolves, does it replace, as they say, coder jobs, or does it just supplement the tooling and make the existing developer more effective? My natural inclination is to say the latter, and that more people will be considered a developer because they'll be able to use these tools, and so you'll have an increase in the developer, I guess, market base. And I'm not saying this with any kind of judgment, good or bad, but I think if I were to bet, I think I would bet that it doesn't eliminate developer jobs, but it augments developer jobs more than anything. But maybe I'm wrong. Coder.show/matrix. Let's warm it up in there. Let me know what you think. If you agree with this guy that it would take more jobs than augment, or I'm not sure if he's making a point, but that's the sort of dichotomy that he's presenting, I suppose.
Where manual tasks were performed. So, yes, definitely engineers and various others will have to see this as a potential threat for displacement, or ideally a tool that will let them do higher order work better.
Right. But how do you decipher between higher order work and what that talent is? And the reason I ask is, if you are in the coding business, for example, and ChatGPT can do a pretty extraordinary job of drafting, especially early code, which then can get tinkered with, if you will.
How does he know that?
Afterwards, you're a young coder, young engineer out of school. They're going to put you in the job. What you used to do was actually draft those, that sort of first level of code before some of the more senior folks got in the door.
No, you didn't. Is he implying that before ChatGPT, you would have had to write that from scratch, so you would have had to understand the fundamentals, and now you're skipping that step? That's BS. Everybody just copies. Everybody finds a working example and they copy. Like even when you're just learning how to write HTML or Markdown, it just doesn't have to be C++ or Kotlin. You copy. That's what you do that's what everybody did. They went to Stack Exchange. They used open source. That's how they get started. So I don't think anything's really being lost there.
To do was actually draft those, that sort of first level of code before some of the more senior folks got in the door and started playing with it. How is that supposed to work And if that level, and by the way, separately, if that level disappears, right, then you have the whole concept of how people work their way up the ladder, what apprenticeship looks like.
This is a shaky premise to begin with. I'm not even sure I follow him.
And ultimately, actually, how smart and thoughtful the folks on the senior levels ultimately look like.
So he's saying that if people no longer have to write that stuff from scratch, that then the senior people come along and spruce up into something working, it's going to basically collapse the entire structure.
Those are all real dynamics. And the net of it is we're going to have to figure out a different way to develop people whose jobs may be displaced at lower levels of the workflow. So, for example, upskilling those junior coders faster through formalized training, replacing what used to be on-the-job training. So, you know, where there's a will, there's a way, and where there's a problem, there's always a way to address it. Statistically, about 19% of jobs are arguably threatened by or enhanced by the onset of AI in the workplace.
Statistically, guys, you know, statistically using data in science, we have determined that 19% of jobs. Now, what is a job? Is that a part-time job? Is that a full-time job? Is that a delivery job? Does that include contract work? We don't know. We don't know. Okay, well, what kind of work are we talking about? Are we talking about medical work? Are we talking about mechanical work? Are we talking about knowledge work? You know, just jobs in general. Yeah, but there's a lot of kind of jobs, a lot of nuances to different jobs. Like, you know, some people, they're scooping poop for a living, and other people are doing heart surgery for a living, and some people are somewhere in between. Like, what do you mean, just 19% of all these jobs? Yeah, you know, jobs. You know, just jobs. You know, just jobs. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I'll go on CNBC and I'll repeat that.
You know, where there's a will, there's a way, and where there's a problem, there's always a way to address it. Statistically, about 19% of jobs are arguably threatened by or enhanced by the onset of AI in the workplace. That's pretty much the conventional research. So let's...
Oh, conventional research, too. So it's not even just like kind of new cutting edge research, guys, but it's the conventional kind, the kind you can really trust. It's the conventional kind of research.
The onset of AI in the workplace. That's pretty much the conventional research. So
let's
look at it another way. 81% of jobs are not threatened by this. I mean, manual task jobs, other than the robotics component of AI, are really not under the gun here. So over a period of time, yes, we're going to have to find ways to...
So manual jobs that are not addressed by robotics, right? Okay.
Task jobs, other than the robotics component of AI.
And, you know, what's funny is these guys would argue that the robotics component of AI is one of the most interesting and exciting components. And the Tesla's actually an AI company, you know, because they got the self-driving and they've got the robot they're working on. They're not actually a car company. They're actually an AI company because AI and robots is going to be such a big deal. But, you know, so the jobs that are manual that don't, well, except for the ones that use robots, those will be pretty bad. And yeah, the robots have been doing more and more every year. But, you know, it's not a big deal. But, you know, only 19% of jobs.
I mean, manual task jobs, other than the robotics component of AI, are really not under the gun here. So over a period of time, yes, we're going to have to find ways to upskill people so that they can do higher order work faster. And quite frankly, that does all kinds of things like...
Yeah, and it's worked really well. You know, Learn to Code Bro has turned out to be a huge success. I know about all of these painters with carpal tunnel and all of these mechanics that are working on, used to work on combustion engines, but now that there's EVs, they don't have jobs anymore. They've all become software developers. They Learn to Code Bro. And that's been really successful. And there's been really no blowback from that at all. And there's been no social controversy about that. And there's really been no reek of absolute failure at all. Just none of that. It's been just an absolute success because every time we just tell people, stop doing that thing you've done for 40 years and go upskill, bro, it works out fantastically and everybody upskills. And there's so many great organizations out there to help them upskill that aren't just a big scam, robbing them of money and giving them a fake piece of paper. Like, none of that's happening. So that's worked out really well, too. Nobody's getting scammed by all these crappy boot camps that are teaching these people how to code, bro. Nobody. So it's great. It's, you know what? If we just told more people to go code, bro, things would get even better. You know, if you look at the data statistically, just using conventional research, it would be better for everybody if they learned to code, bro.
You can do higher order work faster. And quite frankly, that does all kinds of things like promote economic growth, efficiency. I think back to the internet in the mid 90s. Remember when people actually printed out an email and then read it and then put it in their outbox for their administrative assistant to put it back in and email it out?
That was the boomers. That wasn't the young people. That was never the young people. So now your entire analogy is starting to fall apart.
It took about 9 years before people got to the point where they didn't actually over a period of time do that anymore. So
God, that's such a great insight. Yeah. People used to print something, and then as they got more devices and they could recall that thing, they stopped printing it. So therefore, AI. I get it. Yeah, that's like a straight, sharp line. That's easy to follow.
Didn't actually over a period of time do that anymore. So these things enter the workplace, they're threatening, but they don't get adopted instantaneously. There's time to basically adjust.
Alan, want to have you back on the broadcast so we can continue this conversation, because I think that adjustment is the big question. How you adjust, what that's supposed to look like. Unfortunately, I don't think...
Yeah, how do you adjust to this thing that we couldn't even really define and that we could only vaguely outline maybe some possible threats but don't really hold up to scrutiny? It's going to be really fascinating to watch how people adjust to that. Really, really, that's the key thing. How people adjust to that. Oh. The conversation around AI is so bad right now. It's the worst. I don't know. It can't last. Socialism? You hear social? You think so, huh? You think so, Optimus? Hello, Optimus. Well, as long as I'm getting called a socialist and a extreme capitalist in the same day, I must be doing something right.
Guest says the Fed will be sitting on its hands at the meeting in 2 weeks. For more, let's bring in Jeff Krumpelman, Mariner Wealth Advisors Chief Investment Strategist, and Peter Bookvar, Bleakley Financial Group's Chief Investment Officer and a CNBC contributor. Yeah! Welcome to both of you. Peter, is it you who thinks they're going to stand pat? I mean, some are arguing the latest spate of data should push them towards doing one more hike, even as soon as that next meeting.
Well, the bond market's done it for them. If you look at and let's just take the most interest rate sensitive part of the economy, that being housing.
Wow, this guy's coming in hot. For a financial analyst, this is what they look like when they're turned up to 11, guys. I'm not even pulling your chain. I don't know what he's about to say. I haven't seen this clip. This is breaking news, but this is what they look like when they're fired up. Woo!
And let's just take the most interest rate sensitive part of the economy, that being housing. Since the July Fed rate hike, the average 30-year mortgage rate has risen an additional 100 basis points. If that's not tightening, I don't know what is. So the Fed, therefore, does not need to shift the Fed funds rate as the impact of the longer end rate rise flows through the economy in terms of its impact.
Yeah, so... And I sort of teased how Jeff feels about stocks, but Peter, are you also in the camp that thinks we're going to be kind of range bound here?
I'm nervous with the rate rise, its impact on the economy negatively, and also multiples that I'm just not comfortable with. Now, there's parts of the market that are cheap, not defined as big cap. The smaller cap, the mid caps are much more attractive. We're tending to be focused on international markets that are much cheaper and commodity stocks.
Right.
But big cap tech, for example, is still wildly overvalued, in my opinion, particularly with the rise in rates that we've seen.
Jeff Krumpelman, that tees you up nicely because I know that in some...
Krumpelman. So what they're saying is if the Fed hikes rates again, we're almost going to guaranteed have more layoffs in tech. Right around Christmas.
In some ways, and maybe in many ways, you agree, and you're looking towards a slightly different mix of stocks. What are they exactly, and what's your sense about what we're learning here?
Yeah, well, as you know, we were outrageously bullish, I'd say, going into the year because we thought folks were just uber negative. We were going to have a recession. We were going to have an earnings implosion. The Fed was going to hike to the moon. Rates were going to go to the moon. And, that just hasn't played out. We have less worse outcomes, better than feared outcomes. And that's why we were bullish at that time. And now we've had this big run. And so like Peter, after you've had that run, rather than the risk being the upside near term, I think not only, and that is the biggest concern, how high will rates go? I think they're going to calm. That's our base case because inflation is calming. But if they don't, that's a real problem. And in addition to that, you have whether it's geopolitical conflict that you're worried about, you have fears about fiscal debt, government shutdown. All these things are psychological barriers that could cause PE contraction in the near term.
Mm-hmm.
On the good side, you got earnings that are coming out, and I think we're going to have a very good earnings season. Margins are starting to base and improve. And in that environment, as an active manager, that gets us excited when you're talking about, like Peter is,
Well, he still sounds kind of bullish.
individual stocks. It's not an index, it's a market of stocks,
Yeah.
not a stock market. So
But just to be-
that's where we're at, and we
Yeah,
Go
no,
ahead.
and I definitely want to talk through some of those names. They're all very, very interesting ones, some battleground names and so
Yeah,
forth.
let him talk about his
just to your
bags.
larger point, would you say then that the surging bond yields changed your bullishness on the market?
Oh, sorry. Started to put me to sleep. Yeah. Back. I'm back. Let's continue on. It's an interesting morning. They've been voting for a House Speaker. Jim Jordan just lost the vote by a narrow margin, it sounds like. So that's part of the news today. Oil going up, also part of the news cycle today. And lots of discussion around NVIDIA with some of the new restrictions on AI chips being sold to China. So that's all getting a lot of mainstream attention today. Tim Cook going to China. So is Biden. Apple unveiled an affordable, quote-unquote, $79 Apple Pencil that charges via USB-C. Available in, quote, early November. Just in time for a very expensive stocking stuffer. Just slip it right in there. Huh. I was just reading WhatsApp is eliminating passwords. They're going to roll out passkey support to Android users over the coming months. Replace passwords in two-factor authentication. They're really making a push. How do you feel about this? WhatsApp users can securely log into their accounts using their phone's facial recognition or fingerprint scanner instead of typing a password. So it'll use your OS authorization. How will this work for web apps? How will an app that also has a web app manage this? If you know, coder.show/matrix. Passkey was previously being tested by WhatsApp in its beta channel, but now it's coming out to regular users of the app on Android. There's no word on iOS compatibility yet. They're built on WebAuth, or Web Authentication. Well, okay, this is a good sign. Web Authentication Tech. Two different keys are generated when you create a passkey. One stored by the website or service where your account is, and a private key stored on the device you use to verify your identity. Of course, if a passkey is stored on your device, what happens if the device gets broken or lost? Since passkeys work across multiple devices, you may have a backup available. Many services that support passkeys will also re-authenticate to your phone number or email address, or to a hardware security key if you have one. Apple and Google's password vaults already support passkeys, and so do password managers like 1Password and Dashlane. 1Password's also created an online directory listing of services that allow users to sign in using a passkey. Well, let's go take a look at that. This is at passkeys, plural, .directory, passkeys.directory, if you want to check this out on your own. Adobe, Amazon, Binance, Best Buy, CVS, really? There's a lot on here. DocuSign, Googs, GitHub, Home Depot, Instacart, Kayak. There's a lot more on here than I would expect, to be honest with you.
Hello, Georgia.
Hey, handsome. Perhaps this is the year of the password dying. Are you prepared in your soul for the password to die? I might be. I don't know, though. We'll see. I'm just so skeptical that they can make it work and then not screw me one day, you know?
We will always get screwed.
the coder law for sure. All right.
All right.
I think I'm good. I think I have. Well, Yeah, I probably. Do you have everything you need?
I do.
All right, I think I can. I'm on half water over here, but I think I can get by. I think I can manage.
I think, therefore, I am.
That's true.
Chris Bishop.
I think, therefore, I don't have to pee.
I hoard what you covet.
I hold that which you covet. All right, chat room, please do bang suggest as we go along. Pour yourself a cup. There you go. That is a cup of coffee, right? And then let's do it. Let's do it.
Business?
I know. All right, hitting record. Boop, 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 boop. Hitting record. Hello, Drew. I got a song for you. I got a song for Drew. He is so good. There you go. Mr. Dominic, do a 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
Yes. Here we go. This is Coda Radio, episode 540 for October 17th, 2023. Hey friend, welcome back to Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and the business of software development and the world of technology. My name is Chris, and joining us from his podcasting empire bunker, it's our host, Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike.
Flow. The pods must flow.
It does flow. You know, it does flow, although barely. It barely flows. Tell you what, I am basically living on caffeine today.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm kind of a zombie that has been energized by the gift that is caffeine. And as soon as I stop supplementing that into that body, I'll crash an hour or two after. So just one of those nights, you know? I don't even know. I think, the most ridiculous interpretation is that I was so hyped on a nice little win that we had that day. I was doing some projects in the RV that I was so, hyped about it that I couldn't sleep. But I wasn't, thinking about it all night or anything. I just can't explain it. Can't explain it, Mike. Tide comes in, tide comes out. Can't explain that. You know about Analogue? You know about these guys? This company?
I am very annoyed with these guys, yeah.
You can never get any of their products.
Right, that's why I woke up to try to get the the translucent Game Boy colors they were making.
Yeah.
And the site was super slow, and basically within a minute they had sold out. And it was pretty obvious that it was a scalper situation.
Oh, of course, somebody buying a bunch.
Yeah, so it's you know what? And I'm sure they'll say, oh, blah, 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 we're not a huge, but they always do the releases like this. It's like the worst kind of marketing to me, that the artificial scarcity crap.
Yeah, I think I'm cynical, and I think it's to drive pre-sales. Because they push the pre-sale, and then they kind of create this culture. If you don't get on the pre-sale, you're never going to get it.
Well, I didn't even know about the pre-sale. I'm not sure there was a pre-sale for this.
Oh, for some of them there are now. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, okay, but this isn't technology you don't have, right? You could totally do another run, and yeah, God, you really grind. It really does grind my gears.
I know.
Why does it have to be these random runs and drops? Just make a product. Even if you can't ship it to me for 2 months, let me buy it now, just like the Steam Deck was back in the day, right?
Oh, you smell that? You smell that bacon? Oh, I had a little conspiracy bacon, a little Analogue Conspiracy bacon.
Go ahead.
Here it is. So not only is it a brilliant marketing move, and manufacturing's hard, it's especially at a certain scale, et cetera, but maybe it's a brilliant ninja legal strategy to prevent Nintendo from coming down and destroying them.
Because why? By the time the lawsuit was filed, they're already sold out?
Yeah, there's no devices. There's hardly any market share. It's like Nintendo's going to go after a company that's doing incredible and announced Q3 record shipments, right? And great holiday sales. That's when Nintendo swoops in like a vulture and goes after them for IP violation. But if they can never get off the start line and there's only a couple 100,000 out there and you can't even order them, what's the big deal? The reason why I'm talking about them is because they just announced they're making a 4K version of the Nintendo 64, which they claim will have 100% compatibility with the N64 cartridges.
Which also sounds cool, right?
Yeah, because that's kind of it's been a harder machine to emulate properly. Of course, no release date. No release date.
I just wanted the goddamn transparent purple Pocket Game Boy emulation.
I know,
Or not
that's
even
so
emulate, right?
cool.
That's all I wanted because I had the transparent purple Game Boy Color back in the day. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're ducking legal stuff.
Yeah.
It's just sleazy marketing. It really is, right?
Or it's either that or incompetence. So
no, because you know what? They've been at this for so long. I could see like the original run screwing it up.
Fair.
But they've had a number of limited editions already. And they've done a Sega Genesis one, I think, right?
Yeah.
And they've done a bunch of other ones, that SNES one.
Hey man, if I can learn from running robes, they can learn from building hardware, right? You figure it out each time, each run.
Yeah, they're just they don't. Yeah, but which kind of makes sense, right? Because like, okay, if they, you know why? Because suckers like me, the next time they do a run, are going to be like, okay, well, to hell with it. Let logic go to the wind because I'm buying it. Because if I hesitate for 2 seconds, it'll sell out. I'm not mad. You're mad.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. It is diabolical. All right. Well, we got some feedback. We've been talking about adoption of .NET versus Java, and Donald reports in from a little dark matter dev time. Now he's been doing some contract time, and he's also a Jupyter Party member. And he notes that on .NET versus Java, he saw a lot of either .NET or transitioning to .NET when he was in government, and then of course C# just sort of grew and grew and grew while he was working in government. But now as a consultant out in the wild, he says, quote, I see significantly more PHP, Node, and Java and other technologies. It just seems to be more out in the private industry that those technologies become more popular. And he has another one. He says, I think I have everyone beat. Get ready for this one. I currently have 191 domains through internet.bs and 12 through Namecheap. Many are just projects I started. Yeah. I did recently purge my collection, and I let about 40 expire, bringing the total down to its current count. So before over 200
That's
domains.
so much, dude. What are you doing?
He says, maybe this is my first step on the road to recovery. Thank you guys for the amazing, entertaining content. I look forward to it weekly, and I regularly revisit old episodes while I wait for the latest to air. As long as you're willing to weather the economy, I will keep my membership. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Donald, for the report from the ground. And speaking of old episodes, you remember Gigatexel, who used to post to Twitter some clips of the show that we would sometimes enjoy for reflection. He has been once again taking to his blog, and he's updated it again with a new montage of coder clips. Do you feel like indulging, or do you want to save them for later? Do you want to hear a couple?
Go
of them?
ahead.
Okay.
Hit me.
All right. Well, this is a little embarrassing. Let's start with an episode from May 8th, 2018, episode 302. And this is me and you doing what we do best, and that is smelling danger. And the context of the conversation is you and I know something's off. There's too much easy money going into advertising. The market's not going to last forever. We didn't know for how long it would go, but it was clear that this was just going to eventually come to a hard stop.
We are truly the Kelpians of podcasters.
Yes, our little things were sticking out on our
ganglia are out and about. Yeah,
I tend to stay very well versed in it, and it is a niche that I think it's not underserved, that's for sure, but I don't know if it's properly served. We'll see. It's sort of a long-term bet, but yeah, I am sort of prepared for anything to happen, and I am strangely okay with it. I think one of the things I have learned in life, what often seems like it's going to be the worst thing ever develops long-term into something great that I never could have foreseen. And so even if it means the end of my business, or if it means that podcasting is owned by big podcasting and you got to be all in on data collection and it means violating my morals, I actually still think another window will open up. You know, when podcasting closes a door, I think it opens a window, Mike. Why don't you tell people where they can get a little more Dominic in their life or what you're doing?
Follow at @TimoNook1.
So the thing that I love about that is I was really kind of getting at value for value and boosts and memberships before they had become commonplace. And just this week, I was feeling really, really crappy because the Twit network has really been taking a hit. They introduced dynamic ads, and that got them onto some advertising blacklists, including the Eero routers. And those Eero routers were advertisers on Twit, so they have a pretty high penetration in the Twit audience. And the router at the network level was blocking the downloads of Twit because the Twit downloads are now coming from a dynamic ad insertion CDN. And Twit has they've gone from 4 ads to like 1 ad and then a dynamic ad if they can. And they're considering just kind of throwing in the towel. Leo's considering retiring because it's just they're devastated over there. And then something else that's happened in the last couple of weeks is the 2 biggest dynamic ad insertion platforms, and it's going to happen to the other ones too, announced that they're working with brand safety AI companies that will analyze every episode for brand safety and then give you a brand safety rating. And then depending on your rating, you'll be disqualified or qualified for different advertisers. And that rating is dynamic. And so you can be dynamically disqualified if you say something that is considered, not brand safe.
Hang on. What's that, G?
I know.
I don't know. Can you sue them? You did invent this. My good friend Xi Jinping would like to. Do you know a good lawyer over there in the Pacific Northwest, Chris?
Yeah.
He says basically he had a. I don't know if you've heard of this. He has a patent. It's called the social credit score.
Right. It is a social credit score.
He's pretty upset here. Also, I did give him a Winnie the Pooh teddy bear, and I will be assassinated within the next 72 hours.
It's a whole cover your butt motivation. The dynamic ad insertion platform doesn't want to get anybody in trouble. The advertisers don't want to be associated with anything controversial, and it's really easy on a dynamic system to just pull. And so watching this kind of all come together and then listening back to that clip and realizing, it is probably going to be okay. It will work out. The thing I worried about has arrived, but we're still going. We're still kicking. So, and then, okay, how about we indulge in one more? Because this one is a current topic that we talk about all the time. And that is how the VC degens out there have created these companies that either have to burn money and hire like crazy and grow and dump on the market, or they basically have to IPO and sell. It's like sell or IPO, dump on the market and IPO, sell. Like the VC funded model has created all of these hollowed out tech companies that we're just slowly watching wash away over the last couple of years as they claw onto every little bit of land they can keep their hands on. And Mike was on it back in episode 315, which was July 2nd, 2018.
In that case, it seems to me a reasonable objection is consolidation in the technology sector is bad because we're already so consolidated. We do need a good crop of B or C companies. But the reality of the way California and Silicon Valley in particular startups work is GitHub has raised too much goddamn money to actually live on its own, right? There's a weird situation where if you run a P&L on like GitHub, the Mad Botter, and Thoughtbot, the order of profitability goes Thoughtbot, the Mad Botter, and GitHub last. Because they're not making any money.
Yeah.
Right? They're not like I have this old school business mentality, I guess I got from my grandfather, that like you're not really in business until you turn a freaking profit. Or at least can pay yourself. And like who like all the stuff I saw on Reddit, which granted is a biased place about GitHub, was no one had the stones to come up and say, and then I did, but I got downvoted into oblivion, that this is not a functional company by any traditional metric. If you believe the VC no profitability to IPO path, then yeah, sure, it's traditional. Thank you, Netscape, for fucking up the whole world of how business actually works. But I don't know, man.
That's why I think, if people just would have listened to us back in 2018, Mike, we would have saved everybody a lot of trouble.
I like youthful Mike's pot shot at Netscape at the very end. It's like, from the cheap sheets, here we go.
Well, they kind of were the original sin, weren't they? Yeah.
And we could never have known then. But the irony of the Netscape business model being routinely acquired by Microsoft is really just something.
Yeah. There's some other
go
ahead.
Oh, there's another good one, but just a quick digression here. I know we don't have it in the doc, but the FTX trial, because this is the VC stuff. And I don't think we have much on this.
Oh, man, this is like, you're right. It's the peak worst version of it.
Well, it's the version that if HBO made another like Silicon Valley 2.0, like another version of the show as a comedy, you and I, had this not happened, wouldn't have believed. We would have said that's too far.
Yeah.
Right. The only thing tech about this dude is, well, there's a couple things, right? One, he's pretty obviously got a serious gambling issue, is what it seems like. And he tricked VCs into giving him money. And there's emails. I mean, I don't know how closely folks follow the testimony of his girlfriend, Caroline Ellison, and his friend yesterday. I forgot the friend's name.
Wang
was heartbreaking.
Right? Gary Wang.
Right? Like it was all just a con. Even his like, I look like like a scrub muffin.
Yeah,
hair and like dirty hoodies.
They have screenshots of chats where he says, "Yeah, my hair is a big part of our brand and why I think we get the valuations we do."
Right, like the being an ass and playing League of Legends with VCs on.
Yeah,
it's the image they wanted to see, and again, it had nothing to do with tech. In fact, this is the sick part, he could have just stopped gambling with Alameda Research, closed it, taken an L, right? And kept his exchange open, and still been a billionaire.
Yep.
It was the drive, the internal compulsive behavior to gamble that ultimately destroyed this dude. And you know what? I'm a very, like, I don't think people should go to jail for nonviolent stuff. I'm even like regretting some of my harsher stuff on Elizabeth Holmes because I just, I have like some old fashioned ideas about like moms going to jail. But this guy, maybe rehab? Like he couldn't stop.
The way they described that Caroline and Gary described him is he has his own moral code, and lying and cheating and stealing isn't an issue in that. And I think that's probably ingrained in him. He also thought he had a 5% chance of becoming president.
Yeah, that's the thing you tell your girlfriend after a couple drinks.
Or it's a thing that you just start thinking after you buy off a lot of politicians.
Well, okay, so we're going to do this, right? How about the conversation he had with a journalist, because genius here, saying, oh, yeah, I give the Republicans money too, but I don't do it because I have to say his word, not my word, the right shibboleths of wokeness, because you have to be woke to brand yourself.
Yeah, when we donate to Republicans, we do it, secretly. Yeah.
Right. But also, if you were like a quote unquote, I won't say, but let's say a progressive person, and you thought this guy was good, he's basically not basically, he's calling you a sucker, right?
He's playing you.
I don't know.
He's playing.
But it is. I hate that the true tech entrepreneurs are getting smeared with this guy's slime. He is in no way a tech founder.
No,
he's a gambler. If it was 1986, it would have been junk bonds, not cryptocurrencies, and it's the exact same bullshit, fraudulent business model. I gotta question the wisdom of some of our venture capital folks when the dude has to run his company in Hong Kong and the Bahamas. That's a problem. Right?
I think it's still a problem
unless he's from there, right? If you're from there, sure, it makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
But
I think it's still a problem that the VCs like Sequoia, I have screenshots of it. You wouldn't believe the puff pieces they wrote about this guy, calling him, a truly the most ethical man in tech. Just the most absolute kind of praise for almost a godlike figure. That's why I screenshotted it, because it was so unbelievable.
Well, and apropos of nothing, he gave tons of money to Vox and to other tech journal. Vox, of course, controls The Verge and a bunch of other sites, and to a number of other outlets in his philanthropy. Meanwhile, he was robbing, any schmuck who decided to put money with.
They would literally just take customer funds and sell it for their own liquidity, and just show the customer a fake balance.
Well, okay. I love Michael Lewis. The book Michael Lewis wrote on this dude is terrible. The interviews Michael Lewis is giving on this guy are embarrassing. It honestly feels like when I go back home to Jersey and I talk to like one of my aunties who's like 80 about what exactly it is you and I do, right? And it's just like I don't know, he got taken. He doesn't know. Michael Lewis he got taken by the whole math wunderkind tech genius boy, when really this guy is no different than, sorry, homies from New York, but every douchebag who's half drunk at the bar in Manhattan after the third martini, grabbing the waitress's ass because he just made a good, option swap. That's it. They're the same thing. Just because it was cryptocurrencies instead of bonds or stocks or packaged up mortgages or any other sort of security, is doesn't make it teched. So
Alderon Games. Go check out alderon.games/coder for their openings. They have a few up there on the site, and they may even have some positions that they haven't considered yet if you're a good fit. That's my plug. We have a link in the show notes, alderon.games/coder, and you can check the main show for the full deets. Thank you, Alderon, for sponsoring Dakota Radio, a program. Well, you also called this one. Google was the main large tech company we hadn't heard from on this topic. And last Thursday, they announced that they will defend users of their generative artificial intelligence systems in Google Cloud and Workspace platforms if they get accused of intellectual property violations. So they're joining Microsoft, Adobe, and others who have made similar pledges. The company said that the indemnity does not apply if users intentionally create or use generated output to infringe on the rights of others. But here it is, Mike. We have basically all the big quote-unquote AI players in the tech space have come out and said that they'll indemnify their users as long as you're using their tooling.
Yeah, so this is a retaliation, right, and a show of force for the Sarah Silvermans of the world who filed lawsuits, I think, a little too quickly. Good. I like this. I've said it 100 times. I don't think we need to dwell on it, but we live in a global economy, and if you believe Elon Musk, I guess, possibly a galactic economy, we can't be the people who hamstring ourselves, right? The US and Europe. It's, China's not going to stop. They're not going to worry about some pissed off comedian suing because her book was regurgitated. Neither should we.
Okay. All right. So that's I was thinking more along the lines of this is going to really just add pressure to the centralization of an already really inclined to be centralized market because, what idiot in any business is going to go use some AI from the Mad Botter when they can go get it from Google and have it in their Google Workspace and they know they have legal indemnity? Right? To me, it seems like it creates essentially a moat via copyright. So normally we talk about regulatory moats, but now this is essentially a copyright protection moat or an intellectual property indemnification moat.
So could I give you the actual practical answer? Because it's something I'm already doing. The idiot you're referring to, the end customer, is not a direct Google or OpenAI customer. They're a Mad Botter customer, right, or insert your company here, who is using Google and OpenAI, but has already set up parameters specific for their industry.
No, I get it. See, but the problem is that still leads to the centralization where you've got things like Llama from Facebook that I'm running on a old Dell here in the studio, and it's a pretty competent Chat GPT replacement, and it has a lot of potential. And groups like Nextcloud are looking at integrating that stuff directly into Nextcloud, so that way they don't even have to go outside the network to get those kinds of features, like auto-summarizing a doc or taking notes in a meeting or translating one thing to another thing. Like, they're trying to do that all on device. But the thing is you're not going to get that legal protection that way. And I think I acknowledge that there is sort of the broader market is people just using the APIs and sort of packaging that up and having an industry focus and reselling that. But I also would love to see a healthy market of people that could package up these large language models that are built specific for some business, and it all runs on premises. It doesn't have to go to some company that's logging everything. It doesn't have to go over the internet. And that would be a perfect on-premises business product that I think has just been killed in the cradle with this kind of, essentially, a moat.
Kind of the point, too, to kill it, right? I mean, of course, Google...
I think it's
Google
bad for open source long-term.
Oh, yeah, this is all bad for... This is... Well, no, it's bad. It's bad. I mean, I guess we should hit the related story, and also I'll link it in the show notes. I wrote a blog post on this, the AI profitability problem, and this is a challenge I actually have, right? So if a customer comes and wants to buy a license for Alice, and they want to use the Chat GPT features, that is actually a pretty tough sale for me to make right now, because I don't know how much that customer is going to cost me.
Okay.
It's, and Alice itself, right, unless it's being hosted on-prem, but that used to be my bread and butter, and now that's less and less common. Most people are just asking me to actually just, I throw it up on an instance of our own and manage it for them. So you have bandwidth costs, you have other things, but now this OpenAI transaction cost is interesting and can get expensive.
And hard to price back to your customer.
Hard to price back, and they can change the price whenever they want. So there was that story that I think has been debunked, that every GitHub Copilot user is costing them, what is it? It's like they're paying 10 a month, but costing 20 or something.
Yeah. Nat Friedman on Twitter said, nope, not true, but he wouldn't say what the number is.
Yeah, I think the reality, at least this is kind of what I've been seeing, is you have a couple, it's like the opposite of the mobile app economy, where actually your whales are your worst customers.
Yeah.
Because they cost you too much money.
That's true in so many of the service. I mean,
well, you had this with Fireside, right?
Sure.
Because you're a whale there. Yeah.
Well, I suppose it's true of the CDN industry. It's true of the compute industry. Yeah. It's storage too.
So I've actually had to I'm literally working on this because I had to delay some marketing stuff because I don't think I can offer flat prices for the ChatGPT stuff anymore. It might just have to be like a line item on the invoice every month, like here.
Now, but just imagine a world a year from now, because if I'm running some, podunk Docker container that's essentially replacing ChatGPT, imagine if somebody takes that even further in a year from now, and you could take that container, white label, rebrand it, and use it, and you would have a fixed cost. It would just be the hardware cost, and you could just quantify that and bill it back. And it seems like that's a better model for you long term, assuming, obviously, that the tool's competent.
Well, the problem with that, though, is all the incentives of the big players in the market are to prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
Right. This is like, in a lot of ways, building tools upon ChatGPT or Google's thing, or I guess Microsoft's thing is also kind of ChatGPT, right? It's like being, one of those value-added resellers for like Google Work.
Yeah. Or Microsoft Exchange services.
Or Microsoft Exchange. You're always going to have that, portion of the deal that goes right to Microsoft. But I don't know. I mean, so we're sharecroppers now, right? Honestly, we've been sharecroppers a long time. Look at the App Store.
Yes, I was just going to say that. And in some ways, they're going to remain competitive for a while. They'll be making these things better and better. So there'll be some advantages using them for sure. But I wonder, Mike, if we're going to see Sherlocking taken to the next level with these AI tools, because if they're building this stuff into every workspace product, and Microsoft's building into every Office product, and Adobe's building into every Adobe product, et cetera, they're going to constantly be combing the market for the best ideas that, just like Apple does when they Sherlock something, it's going to be Sherlocking at a whole new scale. People will develop some very functional tool, and it's going to get Sherlocked.
Almost certainly, right?
It's going to be Sherlocking all over the place, Mike. Sherlock over here. It's going to be so common, people are going to stop talking about it. It's like, oh, somebody came up with a great idea. 6 months later, it's built into Bard.
You think it's 6 months?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not.
I think it's quicker. I think it's going to be... It's going to be tough. One of, I think, nothing against them, but I think one of the more aggressive folks in the space is going to be Microsoft. If you're building a value-added product for, like, let's say, Office 365 ecosystem, they have a really good incentive, right, with their Copilot program to basically, embrace, extend. What's the last one?
Profit?
You don't remember?
No, extinguish.
Extinguish.
Yeah. How could I forget?
We've already mentioned Netscape. I mean, seriously, we're the dream of 1999 is alive.
To your earlier point, though, there is another lawsuit that Google says would be a sledgehammer to the industry. There's 8 unnamed individuals are suing Google in San Francisco, starting in July, for supposedly Google misusing content posted to social media and information shared on other Google platforms to train its system. Now, Google's trying to get the whole thing just completely dismissed. The lawsuit claims that the company was scraping data to train Bard and others, and that it, quote, violated millions of people's privacy and property rights. Google claims it was only using public data, and it told the court on Monday of this week that it uses public data necessary. The use of that data is necessary to train its chatbot Bard. It said, quote, If this lawsuit were to be successful, it would take a sledgehammer not just to Google services, but to the very idea of generative AI. And they're claiming that it's all public. It sounds like it was not just stuff on Google. Some of the content identified in the lawsuit ranges from photos on dating websites, Spotify playing lists that people didn't realize were public, and their TikTok videos. And I guess one of them is a Texan author and investigative journalist, and she claims that Google copied her book to help train Bard respond to text prompts, but Google said that the book was protected by fair use doctrine copyright law.
Is Google crazy? Have they never seen Walker, Texas Ranger?
Google's like, we can go out there and learn stuff, guys. And they're like, yeah, but you came and learned our stuff. And there's 8 people that are in this that are unnamed. And Google wants the whole thing thrown out because they say if they're successful, it's going to just essentially handicap the ability to train AI. So this California case could end up actually having some pretty big ramifications if Google's right.
So, wow, you should go first. What do you think of this? Because I think we all know where I'm going.
I think Google's going to win it. I don't know if dating photos, it's like what's public and not. I think the real issue is that people don't realize what they're putting online when they post on social media.
Bingo was his name-o.
Yeah.
So I have, I think we've all had this experience, right? A friend who goes through a breakup, blocks their ex on Instagram or whatever, and then is pissed off when they realize their ex just hits Control-Shift-N, and their profile's public. What's public is public.
Right.
This is basically hitting Control-Shift-N on an automated massive scale. It's the same thing. Sorry, Charlie, if you post something in public, you're out of luck. It's the same thing as if, I was sitting at a bar talking to one of my buddies about, the new pricing structure at the Mad Botter, and one of my competitors was at the next table, overheard me. And I was like, okay, so we'll just charge $20 less, right? Whatever. You're in public. It's public. I don't care what you do.
Maybe this is the slow, painful process that normies have to go through to understand their data is actually valuable.
They're never going to learn.
Maybe they're going to learn the
Here's
hard
the
way.
thing. If you can hit it with a URL, either just straight up in Safari or in porn mode in Google Chrome or whatever, then it's public.
I agree.
And all arguments about privacy or intellectual property. Now, it doesn't mean you don't own the copyright, right? That you have a copyright claim, but the idea that this is in some way stealing is going to be a little tough.
Yeah, that'd be a tough thing to prove, especially with a lot of public domain precedent. Maybe Google just gets it tossed out. We'll see how much power they have in California.
Well, it's not just that. If you extend their claim, the people suing, to its logical conclusion, right? Then every time, we get a story off The Verge or something, and then we make iterative content on it by making it funny or mocking them for their obvious biases, they could sue us for using their content.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
It's a slippery slope, as they say.
It doesn't fly. Right.
That
we got to
dog
get over
don't
this.
hunt.
If you put it on the internet, suck it up, Sally.
Yeah. That used to just be the understood thing about the internet, but I guess.
Let me tell you about nuns for a minute, okay? In Catholic school, they would just smack you with the ruler actually said on the side of it, HTTP, dumbass. Yeah.
One last AI story. This one's a doozy. I don't really know what to make of it, but Gary Gensler, who runs the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Committee, the head of the SEC said that AI will likely cause a financial crash within a decade. And he says that maybe by late 2020s or early 2030s, we'll probably see this crash. He calls for regulation to address how AI models are used by Wall Street banks. He describes the issue as a cross-regulatory challenge, and there are enthusiastic adopters on Wall Street. Morgan Stanley has launched an AI assistant based on OpenAI's GPT-4. Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, and Bank of America, though, have banned employees from using ChatGPT at work. But the concern is, I think, although he doesn't come out and say it directly, accelerated trading.
Of course.
And I think they have a real problem because when you combine, you remember the Silicon Valley Bank, the reason why that became a run was because all the VCs had Slack channels with each other. And when people started getting concerned about the solvency of the bank, it spread like wildfire over their Slack, and then pretty soon it broke out onto Twitter, and then there was a bank run. And it happened before Gary even got out of bed.
Okay, but you don't need AI for this.
No,
right?
but you could make it even faster, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's already systems, though.
Well, I could tell you, right? This is why fiber optic wired office space in North Jersey or even central parts of Central Jersey is so expensive. Fun fact: Wall Street is actually in New Jersey. The computers for all the trades are basically in Jersey. And these they call them high frequency traders. Their programs that the quants write, the milliseconds or nanoseconds, whatever. I don't want to get in that fight. It's like Emacs Vim. I don't care. Use what you want.
It's quick.
But the difference between physical proximity to the end market, right, the end market servers, and your bandwidth combined can be millions of dollars. So this is already happening. This thing I don't like about this piece is acting like this is a brandy new thing. No, this is already taking a dude who's in special forces. He's got his, I don't know who the fuck knows what they carry now, but we're just giving him a different gun or an additional gun. He's good. They're going to do it anyway.
Right.
And, I can I make people sad? I think I've been doing a lot of that today. I'm in a mood.
Okay, that's right.
Stay a while and listen.
Yeah, children. Every time you trade on Robinhood, you're being front run by what is it? It's not. What is it? Scion
Citadel?
Capital? Citadel Capital. And what they do, it's called arbitrage. They see your order, and this is like how Robinhood makes money. This is why you don't pay for trades. And they say, okay, so Chris wants to buy, 1,000 shares of Hair Tonic Inc. because I feel like you're a great customer.
They're gonna have a boom. They're gonna be up.
And
baby.
he wants to buy them at $5 a share. They're like, let me look on my portfolio. Ooh, we bought them at 3, and there's this other dude who can get me the other 50 at 4, and Chris wants them at 5. So what we're gonna do is we'll say yes to Chris's order, but we're real quick as we can, little bunnies, gonna go buy the cheaper shares at that profit of $1 per share, and then in the one case, $2 per share, right? And then sell them back to Chris. And Robinhood, because this is the deal we made, is going to lock in that deal such that we get to front run before anybody else does. Chris thinks he got a good deal. Chris actually got screwed.
But it was so easy from my phone.
I know.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of money. I'm the only person I know who has lost money in the drug trade in Canada. I bought a bunch of stock in a weed company, and I honestly, it's so good I haven't been to Canada because I want to punch the CEO of this company in the face. You failed to sell drugs.
They're never going to let you in now.
Yeah. Well, seriously, though. Oh, I know Canada, you can't, God forbid, you say something negative about somebody, they'll throw your ass in jail. But how do you fail to sell drugs?
Yeah, that's a hit. That was a really great, succinct description of how Robinhood works. It's a kind of a shady business, and it's really like the big banks just making the money off the backs of the plebs.
Yeah. Galloway has a lot on this. Professor Scott Galloway, who you probably all know. He is right on this one because they're playing the little guy for suckers. So, yeah.
Oh, tailscale.com/coder, 100 devices for free. Not a limited time deal when you support the show, too. Boom. tailscale.com/coder. I thought we should have this one in the log. Dropbox is preening about their 90-10 rule for remote work. CEO Drew Houston told Fortune that his company is using a 90-10 rule for remote work. That means 90% of the year is spent remote, and the remaining 10% is dedicated to employee offsite events. He says, quote, "If you trust people and treat them like adults, they'll behave like adults. Trust over surveillance." This came out in an interview published on Sunday. Now, this is after they've done some layoffs. They used to have 3,000 employees. They're down a bit. They announced they were going virtual first in 2020 during the pandemic. The transition hasn't been super great. Some employees shared some hot goss with Fortune and said, quote, "Obviously, the company wants to spin it really positively," a former employee who left in 2021 said. And he said, but there are fewer options for people who actually liked going into the office once they went virtual first. Dropbox responded by saying, since the transaction Since the transition to becoming a virtual first company, staff retention is at an all-time high of 70%, and recently hired employees cite virtual first as the main reason they applied for a job at Dropbox.
Haven't we been doing this for years?
It's
Isn't
like
this like what you?
they're figuring it out.
This is what we do.
They're
right?
figuring it out. They're figuring it out.
Like we literally do this. Like you have things in the Pacific Northwest.
Everybody's
I fly
coming
people-
in this week. It's like going to be a big old thing. Yeah.
I fly folks down to Florida, and we do like Disney or whatever. This is. How come we didn't get in business? I mean, come on.
I know. But the takeaway I got from this, and the signal that I think is strong and is going to lead, is that those new hires, they went there because they were remote. It was like when I was chatting with Matt about sponsoring the show for Alderon Games. One of my first questions are these remote jobs? Because that's a lot more.
They're all remote.
Yeah, they're all remote because it's available to a lot more people. Yeah, it's very fascinating.
It's interesting too, though.
I'm glad to see it, though.
I forgot who it was. I should have put it in the notes, but I was half asleep and I didn't do it. It was one of these CEOs about the importance of going back to the office. And I almost sent you a Slack message at like 2 a.m. because I was reading this thing. And it was basically, I read it. I'm like, you just want to be like Napoleon looking down upon your subjects.
Yeah.
And it really, like, it all came down. It was like, the magic, the connect. Honestly, it sounded like Adam Newman's bullshit, right?
That's the kind of thing the person says that gets treated great by everybody. And, when you're in that room, you're the king when you're the CEO, right? But that's not that's not the experience for all the other employees.
Well, also, when you're the CEO of a very successful funded VC company, you can afford things like nannies and daycare.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, I got to tell you, we'll have to do an episode maybe next week on our remote setups because I think I finally got it.
Oh, I like that idea. Okay.
Yeah, the under the table treadmill, big addition. And I don't know that barring like, I'm a corrupt crypto gambler levels of money here that I could ever go back. Even if I was the boss.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if I was the Napoleon. Again, I don't. It's also like I hate paying office leases. There's so much waste. I don't know how many of our folks here have actually had to like negotiate with commercial landlords, but they're not fun, and they're kind of you have to understand they're kind of in a bad business. But their leases are basically something that a contract that hasn't been seen since Mephistopheles gave Dr. Faust a contract. It's crazy. And I'm getting out of my last one this month. And the office has been vacant for 2 years.
Hey, yeah, good for you. Get out of there.
So it's just waste, right? Like there's some servers there, but I shut down the fiber optics. I am out because it is not worth it. Managing a team. I mean, I can't even imagine trying to like hire up in today's age and say, oh, and you have to drive to Plant City or to Ybor City or Tampa,
Right. Go spend an hour in traffic.
Right. Oh, and if God forbid there's a Bucks game, right, you're screwed. Good luck getting home. It's just like, no.
Or construction or construction.
Or let's be honest, it's Florida. If the Gators rebel, which they do from time to time.
I want to put a request out to our audience in the EU because this is a story I don't really have any knowledge on, and it's all I hear is really negative stuff about it. But there is this talk of a chat control 2.0, and it feels like this would gravely impact open source and developers. Just again, what I can put together on May 11th of 2022, the European Commission presented a proposal which would make the chat control searching mandatory for all email and messenger providers, even end-to-end encrypted. Now, there was a system 1.0 that was in place that was kind of voluntary, and some of the big providers like Snapchat, Skype, iCloud, Gmail, Facebook, they participated. But, Telegram and some of the more secure stuff, they didn't. And this would now be mandatory, and after it goes into effect, the commission expects a 3.5-fold increase in reports, like 354% increase in scanning reports. And providers outside the EU, but that have users in the EU, would also be obligated to implement the regulation. This is where I think it could massively impact open source. Even chat in games is in here. If your dating site has chat, if you're using Jitsi Meet and it has chat, or Zoom and it has chat, Google Meet, that all is in here. Game chats, email, all kinds of chats. And then services that are, quote, likely to be used for illegal material or child grooming are obligated to proactively search content and communications and store data and records. And it's all kind of in the guise, from what I can tell, is protect the children. This, to me, it sounds like a political mess, but what I'm really struggling to grasp is how developers would actually implement this and comply with this, and how free software could even possibly implement this. I just can't put it together.
Bring me Valerie.
Yeah. Valerie. Oh, you mean Victoria, or you mean
Victoria?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I have my spies confused.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do the
I'm driving off laughing. This is what I'll say.
shout out there to the No Agenda show. That's a classic remix right there. Yeah,
I
this
love
is
No Agenda.
This is really kind of, to me,
Wildly impractical.
wildly creepy. But I also got to acknowledge that I'm not there. I'm not hearing all sides of this discussion. So I'm kind of putting it out to the audience to maybe help break it down for us, because it sounds like a nightmare, both obviously from a free speech and political censorship standpoint and thought censorship, but also, I mean, just from the practical, like, how are developers of the Simplex chat app going to
I
do
don't
this?
even know how you would implement this in a. I mean, this itself could be its whole enterprise, which probably there will be vendors that pop up to do this right for you, but there's a lot here. I mean, again, I think you and I are pretty much freedom penguins when it comes to really anything the EU tries to do, to be honest with you. At least in my case.
I'm just not a big fan of top-down development. Let's just put it that way.
You know what? Me and Benny used to be friends, and then that bastard betrayed my Georgie boy for Great Britain, and I'm still pissed. And I realize Great Britain also pieced out from the EU, so my joke doesn't work, but god damn it. I was so close.
Yeah, I still take it. I'll take it.
We'll take it. It counts. They're EU adjacent. Yeah, this is dumb. I mean, you know what? You know what the GDRP did? It made every website more annoying to use.
I hate the cookie pop-up so much.
I hate it so much. I'm like, why? And first of all, nobody reads it.
No. You just blast through it, or you try to find an extension that kills it or something.
That kills it, yeah. This is dumb. I mean, I you know, you and I had a private discussion, and you're starting to convince me more and more that some of the speech regulation and the monitoring is getting wild. It's getting out of hand. And this seems like, if this were to pass into law, is so tough to implement, even if you like honestly believe it.
And no going back too. Like,
right, it's like everybody's going to be guilty, so it's whenever they want to screw with you. I also it's
also backdoored by regulation. You're almost regulating insecurity into these applications. Like, they're going to have to fundamentally alter.
This is a hacker's wet dream, right? This is great. Like, if we haven't talked about, what is it, Cutie Bear in a while. If you're over in good old St. Petersburg, ready to do your thing, this is for you. Did you happen to listen to the last pivot with?
No, I meant to though. I probably will later this week.
It was pretty good.
I know. When you say listen, I don't generally listen, but I'm like, all right, I'll tune in. Because I kind of have to hate listen a little bit.
Well, I know you hate it more than I do. There was one segment that my little freedom penguin ears, and I mean penguin as in we're gonna get Batman, not Linux, perked right up. The praise that Galloway and Kara Swisher give to TikTok for censoring just all kinds of stuff. And I get, like, obviously no one wants people to, like, I don't want teenage girls to be convinced to starve themselves, or, like, young men to kill themselves either. I'm with them on that. But the problem is that's the argument that, I think you've correctly over the years pointed out, the save the children argument. It really is a slippery slope, and TikTok in particular is a problem, right? Because, good old Chinese spies are there for sure. I don't know. I guess if I had to have a devil, I would rather the devil of, yes, my crazy uncle gets to read about QAnon all day long and tell me why vaccines are bad and that I'm nuts and blah, 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 and I'm a government shill, rather than have like these draconian speech regulations. Because
yeah, what has it done, Mike? Like, here we are, where I'd say since the election, the entire tech sphere and media landscape has been very serious about misinformation and trying to control the right narratives. There's been the X kind of wild card, but even over there, they're actually, Elon doesn't brag about this, they're censoring and labeling.
They're censoring the shit
more than ever.
Now.
More than ever. Now, I would point out, too, that when you study history or just like read Freakonomics and you look at the incentives of how things actually play out and just look at the last 2-3 years, have the conspiracy theories gotten better? Have we seen less conflict in the world? Is information all of a sudden pure and better and people are trusting the media and trusting institutions more? Even though there has been a constant, nonstop conversation about safety features and about misinformation and about how to properly handle this and about brand safety. That has been a drumbeat since the election, and yet it doesn't seem like a damn bit of difference has been made, does it?
Well, I think you definitely felt it off of me, right? Feeling anxiety about being a little careful about certain things we might say or do because of the very obvious extra legal consequences that could happen to our project together and our respective businesses. And that's just the chilling effect. Maybe I'm being too much of a freedom.
No, there is a chilling effect. And that's the incentives get really screwed up. I think it backfires ultimately. I think what it does is it's sort of, I hate this argument, but if you make encryption illegal, only the criminals will use encryption.
Well, it's not even just the encryption though, right? It's like if stupid Uncle Jimbo wants to post stupid things on Facebook, I mean, you used to have the right to be an asshole, right? I can tell you, back in my traveling salesman days, do you know how many morons I met at airport bars that would tell me crazy? And you know what? You hang out, you be cordial, you have a beer, you laugh at them, they laugh at you because they think you're nuts too, right? And everybody just shakes hands, good luck on your flight, safe travels. Now it's like, you can't say that. You're a bad person. In Canada, they're making it a criminally punishable offense to say certain things that offend people. And the UK has a similar law. I don't get it, man. I mean,
it feels like, funny enough, it almost feels like religious Puritan values. I'm not saying they are, but it feels like...
No, exactly.
Yeah, it's like the left, which pushed back against Puritan values defining relationships and social norms and legal norms. That was a massive fight of the progressive side. It feels like now what we're getting pushed upon us is a new kind of version of that, but just by the other side.
It's just a different religion, right? It's just, I mean, I went to Catholic school, right? You know, if you said Jesus, oh Lord, say, the nuns would be pissed. And now it's, you can say that, you can curse, you can be vulgar, you can be sexually explicit, do things and say things and post things that, literal pornography on Twitter, right? But God forbid you offend somebody. And now, I don't know,
you know what handles this in an interesting way, and I don't know how you scale it, but I kind of feel like if you get offended or you don't want types of information, the onus might be on you.
Just be an adult.
To take the proactive action. And Nostr is like a fire hose. And then all the filtering is done client side. And kind of like Pi-hole, you can subscribe to lists if you want, or sort of the same thing in Mastodon. You can build up a database and just like tune out certain stuff. But by default, all of that filtering is client side. It's done by the client. You can sync that across clients if you need to, etc. But the information is there. And then the individual chooses what they tune in or tune out, or who they follow and don't follow. And to me, that feels like the better system, is because if the platform is always the one making the decisions, what information is valid, what you can't see, what gets removed, what gets censored, if the platform is always making that decision, then they are a media company.
Right.
and they are a publishing company. But
They're
if
an
the
editor.
end
They have
user,
editorial control.
right, it's editorial. But if the end user is making the choice and it's just a fire hose of information like the web is, then their editorial role has been removed. And not only do they avoid a bunch of legal problems, but the onus is put on the user. And you would obviously, you would see technology develop that would make this much more approachable, so you could have child-friendly versions of these apps that are pre-tuned and ready to go. Like, this obviously would be a solved problem. And putting the onus on the centralized platforms ultimately is just putting an albatross around their neck that is going to sink them. And people will move on eventually.
People will move on. And there's also a difference between, like, I'm just going to pick on Uncle Jimbo because it's a fake person I made up, spouting nonsense, or what I believe to be nonsense, on Twitter or Facebook. There's a difference between that and then Uncle Jimbo, like, direct messaging me and, ad hominem attacks, right? Just like disrespect, whatever. I'm totally down with the people who say if someone's harassing you, block them. I'm like, yes, you should have those tools. Use them. I've done it very few times over the last, 13 years we've been doing the show.
Yeah,
there's a couple
mute,
people I have.
It's nice.
Right. Like, one guy was like, oh, you're a kid, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, fuck off, right? But would you walk into a coffee shop or a bar and be like, oh, you're talking about a political party or candidate that I don't approve of, so now I'm going to shout you down and create a scene?
You don't really have the same tooling. I mean, some people, but they're more fringe, but you don't have the tooling, right? You can spawn a mob online.
Or am I going to make the barkeep cut you off and throw you out? Because that's effectively what they're trying to do, right?
A friend of the show, somebody emailed a place where their community was about to hold a meetup and said, hey, just so you know, this meetup follows this podcast. And they're XYZ, and you don't want them in your establishment. So it does happen. It's funny. Again, I'm going to make one more reference, but I think Noster's actually solved another problem. See, with Twitter monetizing, or X, Weapon X, monetizing user content, the incentives at play there incentivize the users to produce things that the platform approves of, so that way they continue to get paid. Because the platform is paying them, the person publishing will over time alter what they publish to get rewarded from the platform, because there's a monetary incentive there. That is going to, A, create certain narratives and disincentivize other narratives, and B, it's going to be the YouTube effect. And we've seen what happens with the same exact system on YouTube. What Nostr does differently, and it's what I think is great about Boost with podcasts, is Nostr has zaps, which are essentially boosts. And so it's users boosting other users for content. And so it's not the platform rewarding it, it's users rewarding other users directly. And that, I think, is a very high signal indication of actual good content. And again, it means Nostr can just be a protocol. It's not a platform. It's not a service. It's not an editorial media company. It's just a protocol. And then the client side and the users are doing that aspect of it, which I think is a much better incentive structure.
It's a freedom of choice issue, right? It's I know we're on a tangent here, but just one last real world story, and it's about business. So years ago, I had a company come to me. They wanted us. They couldn't get on the App Store because they were an adult entertainment company, pornography. And they had a homosexual brand and a straight brand. I said no to both. Not because I'm anti-gay or anti-sex in general, because it's just not something I want to do. I don't want to be in that business, right? I don't judge how other people make their living. That's fine. But I didn't say anything. I didn't give the guy a hard time. It was actually a guy and a lady, which was interesting. A married couple who ran a fairly successful digital porn empire, which, wow. You know what? I just I don't want to be involved in it. I had the right to say no. And that's what it should be like.
Yeah.
People make personal decisions. Now, I was stupid to say no because the amount of money they were offering was significant. But I just, I was doing a lot of work with like a school for special kids and like autistic, stuff like that. And I was doing military contracting at the time. And I just didn't think it would jive super well. But I just didn't want to do it. Yeah. So, but I didn't go on a rampage.
It doesn't have to become a thing. It's not a
right. It doesn't have to be an ad hominem thing.
Yeah, it's same with
Boostagram.
That's the same with the sponsors that we pass on. Honestly, it's like
we could decline any sponsor we want.
We do, and we don't go on and like shame them or something like that. Yeah. All right. First, I want to thank our Coder QA crew out there. The Qs of the Coder QA crew. Thank you very much for supporting the show directly, giving us that monthly foundation over at coderqa.co. As a thank you, we're giving you the ad-free version of the show and the Quarterly Report, coderqa.co, or support all the shows at Jupiter.party. And it is indeed time for the boost.
4 boosts to go.
And Adversary 17 comes in with a big old baller boost this week. A big one, 512,000 sats. Oh. Coming in on Podverse, he says, he sent me a longer email to kind of expand on this. He says, I think maybe 2 years ago now, another audience member asked, because they both listen to Coder, what's a good way to get started with coding? And then Mike talked about, getting into the snake and JavaScript or TypeScript. And then towards the end of the conversation, he had an offhand remark. He said, well, there's always .NET. And, well, that stuck with me. So I went down the rabbit hole of learning C# on top of .NET. I've fallen in love with coding again, and I want to thank you both for the pointers that I get from the show and inspiring people to try things. And he's also now working on version 2 of a program that's like a asynchronous ping, DNS lookup, and traceroute all in one app. And they're hacking away at it right now. He wanted to pass along the value. So thank you very much, adversaries, for passing along the value that you got from the show. We really appreciate you boosting in.
Inadvertently creating .NET developers one day at a time.
Isn't that funny? A throwaway comment like that, Mike. That's how it goes.
I noticed we don't get any Objective-C people writing in ever.
You'd think there'd be thousands of those by now.
No, I think they've seen what just mental damage Objective-C has done to me over the years.
The warning. Okay. CGB boosts in with 90,000 sats. No message, though.
Hoard that which your kind covet.
But we do appreciate the support. And then John A. also came in with 50,000 sats. Hello again, John A. Thank you. He says, I want to say, you guys do a better job presenting the politically polarizing stories and topics in an objective way than any other podcast I listen to, including the News Focus podcast. It is appreciated.
Well, Johnny, the answer for that is because he has great hair and I'm usually loaded, so.
Torp comes in with a big old row of McDucks.
Things are looking up for old McDuck.
Using Podverse, he says, I think there's a lot of 3D animators in today's movie credits. Just wait until the AI devs get in there. That's true.
That's spicy.
There's going to be an AI section of the credits. They're going to have to play the music a little bit longer.
Do you think we'll have like the AI Edison and Tesla where they kind of hate each other? Like the two bots are just like.
Well, now I hope so. I'd watch
I don't know.
that.
I've seen enough Battlestar Galactica. That's not great.
An AI could essentially create vlog content 24/7.
Wait, could an AI... Think about this. An AI could make propaganda and fake news about the other AI.
Oh, yeah.
And back and forth. Oh, my... We could have AI elections.
I hope so.
I am pretty sure we do.
Let's be honest. They're probably going to do a better job than the guys we got now. So
wait, you don't like picking between two 80-year-olds who smell like Bengay and one who miraculously only eats fast food and Diet Coke and somehow is still alive?
That's not fair. It's just not fair. I don't like that.
Do you know how much I like chicken nuggets? And every time I eat them, it's like I got poisoned by King Montezuma is striking back at me.
My shame is I think I kind of like Diet Coke. I know.
That's bad.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I don't drink it often, but I got a little bit in the studio because people are here, and I'm gonna say I've already drinking a few. It's not good. D'Amica USA comes in with 3,000 sats using Fountain. Just says fabulous job as usual. Thank you for the boost. Also, thank you, Torp, for the boost up there. I really do appreciate that. And Mr. Borgander, okay, comes in with 5,000 sats.
Curious, sir.
Says thanks for the great show. I'm loving the appreciation and the value, guys. We really do appreciate that. Thank you. Marchie comes in with 10,000 sats. And on the point of reducing carbon, because remember I was like, why is Apple saying they're going to remove all carbon? Any bit? He says they're really kind of referring to methane CH4, which contains carbon. Says we're all made of carbon in a sense, but mainly in the sense that we're composed of many hydrocarbons, molecules, and methane, and no one wants to ban carbon itself, though it sounds like it sometimes. I don't disagree about the virtue signaling, but I got fairly loose up on that soapbox there for a while. Oh, it's a little slopey up there. What I was really giving Apple a hard time is, and I've actually since that, the feedback has kind of helped me just accept it. I hate it when the companies say carbon and they only talk about carbon. And it's also like, I just wish they would focus on other things. Not that maybe reducing carbon would be a good thing, But what about wouldn't it be incredible if some of Apple's billions went into investing in better transfer capability in the United States? So once we got better power generation online, we could actually move it. Because, we could go build a few nuke plants, but we don't have a way to transport that electricity. We have more stranded power than we know what to do with right now in the United States. So it's just like investing in some transmission lines or some, renewable energy or something like that. But instead, it's like these initiatives to remove carbon. Or hell, how about an initiative just to remove methane from the air? Just focus on something else that matters.
Or we could just build more pylons.
Yeah. Rotten Mood comes in with 12,304.5 sats. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a Spaceball boost.
So the combination is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the stupidest combination I ever heard in my life.
I got a new version of that one coming up. He says, coffee. Don't get me started. We have an AeroPress that's been going strong for over 10 years now. He says you could look for the upside-down brew method, by the way. A mocha pot for it with espresso and a Mocha Master for pour-over style coffee. The Mocha Master is a bit pricey, but well worth it. No hot plate, so no electricity use. Past the brew cycle, of course. And then we believe in the right to repair, so you can get parts and fix it. Oh, I'm sorry. And they believe in the right to repair, so you can even get parts to fix it if it breaks. So maybe it is worth the investment. And the coffee has to be black. No other way. Oh,
yes. Oh,
really?
Yes. Oh, Chris, don't tell me you don't. Tell me you.
No, I'm not drinking coffee currently, but I hadn't thought about this. I haven't given this adequate consternation, I feel like.
You're not a creamer guy, are you?
No, I used to be a butter coffee guy.
Oh,
I know.
Dude.
I know.
Oh.
Man, here's the thing, though. You can't deny the results because you get a little fat and protein with your coffee, and it smooths out the energy and the jitters. It's such a nice, and it's just so perfect. So I actually did. But you're right. I think I'd have to go black now. Jeff tried some of our El Salvador coffee we have here, and he says it's really good and really strong.
Chris, if you go black, what's going to happen, right?
I'm never going to go back to Red Bull.
Exactly.
Yeah. Eric comes in with a row of ducks. He's using the podcast index. He says, Mike, how have you liked Codium? Bad publicity is still publicity, and I ended up trying it, and I'm liking it. I am now using the self-hosted enterprise version.
Okay, so I did not like Codium. It's not terrible, but it definitely feels quite a few paces behind CodePilot to me. Having said that, I'm using CodePilot, in a different way than I think I normally would have. I'm using it for a lot of I forgot the syntax for this or whatever because I'm
it's great for that.
Crazy Unreal programming, C++, blah, blah, blah. It does. Yeah. I mean, I didn't care for it. I definitely see the value though in the self-hosted aspect of it. So that is something, and it's early days. I'm probably going to give it 6 months and try Codium again. But my initial adventure was not something that could dislodge CodePilot for me.
Nacho Linux comes in with 5,000 sats using Fountain. He says, whoa, all the infra costing Microsoft $20 a user? My giant ad marketing employer is currently doing a trial for both MS Copilot, that's about 90% of the company.
Nice.
And Google Duet AI for about 150 users. Both must be spending in similar infra because it's $30 a license, and that's pretty steep. Keep up the great work and the positive vibes from Downey, California. Hello, Downey, California. And thank you, Nacho
This might
Linux.
not be true, though, right? The $20 thing, they came out and said...
Yeah, we don't know what it is, but it might be closer to cost. It might be closer.
It might not be as bad, but I feel like they're... it's... this is one of those things where one of them is going to start lowering their prices to try to steal from the other, right?
I guess I'm actually impressed and somewhat surprised, that we are seeing the level of enterprise adoption with these tools we are. I mean, we do actually keep hearing from listeners and other folks that are actually at companies that are actually deploying these. It's not super often that large companies, he says it's a giant ad marketing employer. It's not often that these large companies jump on a new tool like this. And I have to suspect it's in part because they're baking it into, their other workspace product line, or, they already have there's already an advertising channel to get into these companies, and they're just must be just their business sales must just be ramming these channels with with these plans because they're actually selling them. It's like they could have created this stuff and nobody would have paid for it for 5 years. I mean, the economy sucks, and they're paying $30 a person.
Yeah, are they though? I mean, they're on a 90-day trial. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
you know what? In 90
that's
days,
true.
right in.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, that's good. That's true. No go-go or no Gorogo. That's not it. Comes in at 8,024 sats and says, greetings from the great north. Greetings from the great white north. Hey, good day.
Oh, Canada.
It's about time you boosted in. Thank you. Faraday Fedora.
Send me Tim Hortons.
Yeah, some swag or something, or maybe I don't know. Can I brew it? Faraday Fedora comes in with 1,000 sats. He says, "I'm sorry, I haven't been boosting, guys. Keep up the great content."
Ah, Dankeschön.
Yeah, it's great to hear from you, Faraday. I'm glad you're out there and you're doing all right. And it's always nice to know you're listening too. That's for sure. Now, how about this? Especially thanks to Mr. Adversaries up there, we stacked 720,813 sats this week. Woo! That is we're whipping it.
Really whips the
Hashtag nailed it.
12 boosters too. That's a great return for 12 boosters. Thank you everybody who supports this episode with a boost. If you would like to boost in your message, give us your thoughts on anything we've talked about today, especially if you're across the pond and you have insights in the whole chat control stuff. Please do. You can get a podcast app at podcastapps.com. Fountain is very close to their 1.0. And if you have any ideas for features, you can boost those into the show as well. They'll be watching the boost for the next couple of weeks. Pod versus Developer just went full time. Huge leap. And so we're seeing massive development over there. A brand new podcast app called PodFans is in development. That's a progressive web app that is loaded with features. We are seeing a ton of development, podcastapps.com. If you still want to keep your old app, you can. You can boost from the web. Just getalby.com. You top it off either in the app or something on the Lightning Network. And then you can boost from the podcast index. We'll have a link in the show notes. You can actually boost from fountain.fm's website as well and from Podverse's website. Lots of ways. But we'll have links in the notes for that. Thank you, everybody who supports the production, because you know what? It's all about the direct audience support. It makes the difference, and it keeps you our biggest customer. And you know how that is for a biz. That's what matters. Mr. Dominic, is there any biz you want to tell people about or send links to things or go to places before we get out of here?
Go to DominicM.com if you want some new content, and I am on Weapon X at Dominuco.
Yeah, we'll have a link. We got to get that link to that new blog post in the notes as well. I'm on the Weapon X, I suppose, at Chris LAS if you want to. And you know that chat room, coder.show/matrix, going all week. It's going during the live show. You can go in there and say hi. It's not super crazy either. So you're not going to get blasted. That's at coder.show/matrix. Links to you might get blasted. Well, sometimes. Links to what we talked about today. All right, coder.show/540. You can see what we're talking about. We got the receipts over there. Of course, you can subscribe. We got the contact form. And last but not least, I'd like you to know we also do it live. Yep, I mentioned that before. It's Mondays. Nope, it's Tuesdays. Tuesdays at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. jblive.tv. It's pretty easy. It's easy, right? Thanks for joining us. See you right back here next week. Thank you, Drew. Appreciate you.
Druminius Maximus.
All right, I'm going to end the titles, and we got a boat. Did you see any go by that you liked ahead of time? Did any catch
I don't know. I suggested a bunch. I mean, I honestly, can we vote like this was a Russian election?
Putin always wins?
Because you know what? I ended up watching this documentary on Navalny.
Ran me Chris's channel. Amazing.
Did you like that? That was me. And I'm like, why the hell would you fly back? Like, very stupid. like, what did you think was going to happen?
Sherlockin all over the place was mine.
That's good.
Suckers.ai. Welcome to the desert of real.
Ugh, as I fall asleep.
I know. I'm glad we're done.
You're usually not on this late. This is my nap time.
My brain started crashing right there at the end of the show. I'm like, oh, I'm glad we're wrapping up because I'm done. I'm done. All right. So as far as boats go, we're kind of spread across 3 right now. Sherlockin all over the place, suckers.ai, and welcome to the desert of real.
Why don't we do Sherlockin all over the place? I think that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Sherlockin all over the place. Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. Oh, wait, calendar stuff. Are you good next week?
Yeah, should be.
Okay, then. So Tuesday, next Tuesday is Halloween.
Oh.
And you and I have between us a small strike team of kids. So
you want to do it Monday?
I was going to propose, for the 30th. Let's do it on the 30th instead of the 31st.
It should be good. It'll be a little hectic here because a lot of people leaving for Linux Fest.
Okay, then.
But
I guess I could do it.
It's probably
the problem
fine.
is.
It's probably
okay.
fine.
Well, oh no! Wait. Okay, it's probably fine. we might have to be a little short. We'll figure it out.
Okay. All right. We can always change our minds too if it comes up. So.
Or we could do like a theme show, like the scariest parents of Sam Bankman-Fried.
They're in on it, dude. They are in on it,
dude. Did you see that? Like the reporting of them furiously writing on their legal pads. I'm like, they're not worried about their kid. They're like, oh shit.
Yeah, They should be in trouble, but I don't. We'll see.
They'll never get indicted. All right. Well,
bye, everyone. Have a good rest of your week.
Bye. You too. Bye.
All right, John, we're going with Sherlockin all over the place. Thank you for hanging out with us. We're going to have a great self-hosted coming up this week later on in the feed, so keep your peepers out for that. And then, of course, Linux Unplugged on Sunday is going to be a banger because it's the Linux Fest Northwest weekend for the Mini-Fest. And if you're going to be at Linux Fest Northwest Mini-Fest, come say hi. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. See you next time.
Look out now, boys. Are you ready to do the rigmarole? Yeah, man. Well, go on where I told you. Do like I told you. Because everything is home cooked. Look out now. Here we go. Watch it. 1, 2, 3, 4.